Hello, everybody. It's so good to see you guys, all the shining happy faces. We've got more people joining. I have a feeling this is going to be a relatively busy call because everyone loves you, Karen. Okay.
That's sweet.
So, everyone, I have a story to tell you, and I don't think we need too much of an introduction because we all do know Karen. I mean, Karen, okay, let me just jump right in. First of all, don't forget, chat amongst yourselves as you always do, but if you have a question for me, I'll filter it through to Karen. If you have a question for Karen, please type question in big caps every time somebody forgets. And one day I'm gonna think it's a question and accidentally say something out loud you thought was gonna be private. So type question and I will ask Karen. Make sure your questions are quirky. You know what I will do to you if you start asking, what's your favorite genre? I want interesting, good stuff. Okay, so Karen wrote a blog. And I've been doing audiobooks, I think about 6 years. It's getting to be my age. I'm getting suspicious that I sound old if I talk about how long I've been doing it. So now I'm kind of blurring it. But in the beginning, I had a really hard time believing that I could do a job I loved, somebody would pay me for it, and I would survive, and valuing my worth. I was working in a corporate company, doing my acting on the side, and feeling like I was never going to be able to be like the people that did what they loved. So I was made redundant from my job, and I thought I'll be an audiobook narrator. But of course I have to have a survival job. I'm not going to do a corporate job because I want to be an audiobook narrator. I'm taking this seriously. I'll just do a little not using my brain part-time job. So one of those jobs was a receptionist at a car where all the cars are around the phone and you're sitting there next to like gorgeous shiny cars. And I could not sit there for 8 hours answering the phone. My brain would die. And I found Karen's blog and I would print reams and reams of Karen's blog. I mean, like this. I was arriving at the car lot with a big, heavy backpack, sneaking her blog every single day, the entire time. I think they eventually might have figured it out because I was reading her blog underneath the directory of names, people I was supposed to direct the calls to, making God knows how many mistakes because all I cared about was Karen's blog. And I remember you were the first person that kind of came to my attention. And what I loved, and to be honest, what I think kept me in this, even in the very beginning, before I got a coach, before I met Sean Pratt or anything, was you had one where you would talk about your old job and you would talk about the transition and you would talk about what it meant to you. And I could hear by reading your blog, you changing. I felt that I vicariously experienced the change from that corporate afraid person that felt, and also the other thing I think I related to was that you took pride in what you did. You were the go-to person. You were relied on in your old job. You were good at what you did, and that makes it harder to move because you identify with it. And I could hear that in your blog. I felt like you were a friend that had been there and said, this is what it is, right? And so I'm facing all these people, and it was hard because I was a boss in my old job. So now I'm like a lowly receptionist. Please, sir, can I go pee? And meantime, I've got Karen whispering in my ear the entire time, telling me about your journey. And your writing was magical. It was, you brought me along with you, and I experienced through you. You can't explain to somebody the difference between being a freelancer and between being in a corporate job and having that identity and suddenly carving your own way, especially when you've had a long life where you haven't felt that maybe you could call the shots and be your own person. But I lived it through you. I felt like I did. Such was the power of your writing.
You are going to make me cry.
It was the truth. It was the truth. It got me through those horrible days because without it, I think I would have sat and thought, well, what have I come to now? you know, all that work being somebody I didn't even want to be. And now I'm like the lowest of low of somebody I didn't even want to be. You know, I mean, they had free coffee, you know. That was,
There's
but
that, yeah.
you know, asking permission to go to the bathroom was quite a change. And I think when you model something to someone, which is why these calls, because I don't think asking Karen her favorite genre is going to get you there. But I think if we can do for this audience what you did for me and let people feel what it was like to be Karen, going from what you did before to what you're doing now, because you were always this person growing up, weren't you?
Probably.
So tell us your story, Karen.
My husband's Drew, and he's involved in everything that I do. And I tell him that there's this girl in 5th grade in me. And like the girl in 5th grade is always the one raising her hand. I got the answer, I know. So a lot of times I find that I have to tamp down that girl in 5th grade mentality because she likes to be the expert and she likes to help people. I cannot tell you what it has meant to me to hear you say that, Daniela, because I mean, I've read you on Facebook, you've read my stuff. This is the first time we've actually had the pleasure to actually talk with each other. And I mean, I'm just getting goosebumps to hear you say that, because sometimes writing my blog and putting things out there, and not so much today, but definitely when I started writing in, I think, 2006, you know, a lot of times I felt like nobody but me cares about this. Nobody cares what I'm saying here. This is not making a difference to people. And I think it's easy to feel that way about our job as a narrator too, because maybe in the moment, we're not getting the feedback or we're not getting recognition, but it's all an evolutionary process and it all builds, and every moment has meaning, and something that may seem inconsequential today, 15 years from now, you don't know, it might be completely life-changing. So anyway, thank you very much for saying that, because that just means the world to me. And like I said, you're going to make me cry. And
but it's not just me.
I don't think
everyone.
I want to see me boohooing for an hour.
It's not just me though. It's everyone. The thing that everyone says about you, and because I knew you were coming on for a while because we're booked, and I'd be like, oh yeah, Karen Commins is Karen Commins is coming on, and everyone across the board said, oh my God, she helped me so much when I started. That is the quote. That is like the tagline that everyone says about you. She helped me so much when I started. It's what I say to people about audiobooks. You don't know how many people you've talked to that have been sick and had a hard time getting through the night. You don't know.
Right.
You know,
but you never know. Whatever it is you're doing, you never know the impact you're having on someone. So even if you can just give somebody a smile as you walk by, you never know what that's going to mean to that person.
Yeah.
Not only in the moment, but perhaps down the line.
Did you feel it was gradual, or did you have a pivotal moment where you felt, I'm a narrator? I've done quite something here.
Well, and I hate to say but it wasn't a pivotal moment. It's like I have always known all my life that I wanted to do voiceover, and I think that it was more gradual to narrow that field from everything in voiceover to I only care about audiobooks. And, you know, that's not the primary way people go about it. I think most people, well, I won't say most people, I don't know, but a lot of what I've seen, people are trying to do commercials, they're trying to do e-learning, they're trying to do corporate narration, and having varying levels of success in each one of those things, because you can only devote so much attention to each thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I tend to think of it as scattered thinking leads to scattered results. And I don't really like commercial voiceover. I don't like the sell of it. I don't like the hustle of it, having to be tied to your machine. Gotta get it out, gotta go. You know, if I wanted to work on short fuse deadlines arbitrarily set by other people,
Yeah.
I would have stayed where I was in IT. So
You become unemployable, proudly so. Like, okay, so you want to stand there and tell me to do something over 50 times.
yeah. Yeah. And so I didn't really like commercial VO, and I didn't really like e-learning because you have to make all these little files of all these screens, and then dealing with people who weren't computer savvy and didn't know. If you asked them, well, how do you need the files? What do you need? How do you need it divided up? And they didn't know. It's just, again, if I wanted to do that, I could have stayed where I was.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's been kind of gradual to cut the cord to everything else. And I guess the word I'm looking for is it seemed like unconventional wisdom to me at the time, and sometimes still does, that I don't do those things and I couldn't care less about them. And I remember, I was in a bunch of different Facebook groups that were just voiceover. I got rid of all of them. People I was connected with who were only voiceover, unfriended them, because you only have so much time in a day and so much attention to go around. And why should I put my attention in places that I don't care about?
You've become monogamous. You're faithful to audiobooks. You're faithful to audiobooks.
That's certainly a way of putting it. But
it is though. It's. I see those people that are doing everything. They're dating, and everyone has to date to find out who you like. But when you fall madly in love, that's it. It's your true love. What's the point of wasting any time?
But some people, I wouldn't necessarily say they're dating, because some people truly love that much variety.
Yeah.
And they thrive on the deadlines, and yes, you can make a lot more money a lot faster in commercial voiceover, but there's a lot more hustle to it. I mean, not saying that there's not hustle in audiobooks, but I think you know what I'm saying. It
still goes to relationships though. There are people that like variety.
Right. But you have more time to think about what it is you're doing and do the kind of work you want to do on it, where commercial, it's just one and done and gone, and you're on to the next thing. And
it's good money. It's hard because it's good money. I kick myself, but I just can't do it. I can't do it. If I even leave the house for a walk, it screws me up. I can't be distracted because I'm no good at it.
Well, the thing about money, and there's an excellent Neil Gaiman quote about this, where he said, and I think he said it in some commencement speech to students, but that he did work at one point for the money, and then he didn't get paid. And so he realized that the point of doing good work is to do good work, because if you didn't get the money, and that's why you're working, then you didn't get anything, but you would always have that good work. And I'm not quoting him directly, but that was the essence of what he was saying, that if I only work for the money and I don't get paid, then I have nothing.
Yeah.
And if I work for the good of the work, then I'll always have the work.
Are you good at staying focused and being present and enjoying the process? Or is it something that you create structure and boundary around to make yourself do? Did you have to learn to do it? Because you're very, very focused and structured and organized on paper, in print, online. You've got a very hyper, am I right, organized personality.
Oh, yeah. I mean, organization is my superpower, and I think that I came by it naturally.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can pack a suitcase, all the way around. I mean, when we're going out on errands, I'm mentally computing the route so that it's the most efficient and it's right turns, not left turns. It's kind of like what UPS does, but I just think about it because I'm just wired to be organized.
Is it just all in your head? Do you use spreadsheets or planners or?
Oh, you haven't heard me preaching about Evernote, have you?
Oh, yes. Sorry. Oh, I wish I hadn't brought that up. My brain does
Evernote is
not
such a game
compute with-
changer. Well, it is. It's such a game changer, especially, whatever level of organization you have, or Evernote's going to give you more. And the reason it's a game changer is because it syncs across all my devices. And so I can add to it on my phone when we're out in the car, or I could be at my computer, or I could be on my iPad out at the pool, which, you can't really read an iPad out at the pool, but it could happen.
That's the dream we all have when we start.
but it syncs across all my devices. And so I have so much stuff in Evernote. And see, it lets you clip articles from the web. So I don't have all these bookmarks. I've got them there. And then when I'm looking for something, it'll show me articles that may apply, or things I've written that may apply to whatever I'm searching. And sometimes you come up with something that, oh, I forgot I had that, and that's not even what I'm looking for, but I'm going to revisit that idea. Oh, I love Evernote. So it's my information and idea repository.
So I have a question. What fascinates me though is it's not often you find somebody that it's the right brain, left brain thing. Did you have artistic because I've never met anyone that seems to like cover both sides equally. Like you've got like creativity like coming out of your eyeballs, like your templates. I loved your templates with like the postcard or stamp thing that somewhere I saw you had templates with, you've got you're like me in that way, which is like, I don't understand people that aren't, it freaks me out. But like anything I do, I want it to have cool colors and look nice and make it like me. And you do that. You're really, really creative, but you're also really, you're right brain and left brain. Were your parents artists, creatives? Where did you get that from?
I don't know. I do know that the Myers-Briggs test is a personality test. And I had it twice when working my day job, which for those of you who don't know was everybody's favorite government agency, the Internal Revenue Service.
Oh, wow.
And
I
but
felt
I had
bad
it twice.
for working for an oil company. I think you beat me.
I had the Myers-Briggs twice, and depending on my mood, I scored 3 of the things the same way. You're either an introvert or an extrovert. I'm an introvert off the chart. This does not mean that I'm shy. It doesn't mean I can't work a room, but it does mean that I don't want to go to the party. And if I go, I'll probably only stay an hour, and then I'll only be talking to 1 or 2 people over in the corner. That would be my preferred thing. And then that would tire me out and I need to recuperate. So it's really about where you draw your energy. And so I'm very much an introvert. And I'm going to come back to the middle thing. And then there's judging, or I hadn't thought about this in a while, judging or sensing. And I'm kind of judgmental. It's either white or it's black. I'm not so much into the gray area. You either go on the feeling of the thing, or maybe it's judging and feeling. Because people who are feeling will say, well, I feel it should be this way, or I think that. And then there's thinking or perceiving, and perceiving is getting more and more information to make a decision, where thinking will be like, I'm pretty much a snap judgment. But one of those things is sensing or intuitive. And one day I scored on the sensing side, which means that I need instructions step by step. And then the other time I took it, I scored on the intuitive side, which means you could just make intuitive leaps.
I love that.
I think this kind of addresses what you're saying, because I'm very comfortable on either side, because I worked in IT for over 30 years, and I have a master's of science in computer information systems, and I worked in very technical IT jobs, but I also was a musician all through school and a writer. And so I think I'm both things. And I think to some extent we all are, and maybe we just don't give ourselves enough credit.
Yeah, we don't use
for doing those things. I mean, people will say, oh, I don't know how to use the computer, or I don't know this, that about the computer. Oh, I don't want to learn. But it's a fear thing, because then when I get them to learn it,
Mm-hmm.
And when I say I get them to learn, it's because you wouldn't believe how many people I've taught. Not that I do this now, but I'm saying
Mm-hmm.
like mostly in my former job, but because part of what I had to do was user support. When I could get people comfortable enough with it that they could do things and they understood what they were doing, well, then they embraced it.
Yeah,
And so
because
I think a lot
confidence,
of it's
they
the
hold their
fear.
confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
it's keeping yourself from it because you're afraid of it. So you'll just say, oh, I'm a right brain person, so I can't be doing the computer, but
yeah, we use it as an excuse.
I
I
think
can't tell
so.
you.
I
I'm a
think so. So I
Gemini,
think,
so I get away with everything. But do you know what you've just made me realize? Because I wonder, because these personality tests, I think that's fascinating that you score differently one day from the other, because these personality tests tell us how we react to things and how we see ourselves as reacting to things. But I think maybe the question deep down, which the personality tests don't address, is what is our core need? Like, like there's obviously something that I know myself, I'm like addicted to spreadsheets, and and I like the attention, I like the joke calls, but there is a core driver. I'm maybe not ready to admit that on YouTube until I've figured out myself first, but there's a core driver of what it is that keeps me going. Why do you do the things you like? What are you getting from them? And I think we find that most of the time it's like the same thing. Like, I need things organized, I'm in control, and I get back a certain excitement. So what would you say the reason you do what you do? Because that would probably tell you more than the things you do and what you think about them, because they obviously change from a day to day, but there's probably a core. Am I making sense? I'm thinking
oh,
this
you're
as
making
I'm saying
complete
it.
sense. You're making
There's
complete
a
sense.
why you're doing it, and you obviously have a very strong why that all these things give you: the creativity, the books, the narrating, the IT. Is it the challenge, the control? What would you say?
Okay, you're going to have me admit it on YouTube for now
Oh,
and
well,
forever.
actually, yeah, you don't have to if you don't want to, because I don't think I'm willing to, because I have a really uncomfortable feeling I know the answer to mine.
I, I I'm not afraid to admit it. It's the recognition. I mean, I like all through my life, I've done things for recognition. When I was in 8th grade, I played clarinet, and I had been 4th chair in the honor band the preceding year in elementary school. So I was
Wow,
pretty good on
that's
clarinet.
very
But
good.
I don't, even then, I didn't audition well. I get stage fright when I'm in front of people and I know they're listening to me. And so when it came time to join, they were assigning chair assignments in band in 8th grade. I didn't audition well at all, even though I'm pretty good on it, for a 7th grader. I didn't audition well, and I ended up last chair out of, I think, 13 or 14 people, and I was devastated. And then the band director said to me, well, we need an oboist. We don't have an oboe
Good for
player.
them, because they knew you and they knew you were good, and they probably saw.
Well, the thing is, you have 13 clarinet players. How many clarinet players do you need? You don't need 13, but you need an oboe. And so as soon as they offered that to me, I took it and I started playing oboe. And then at our band banquet that year, I was the most improved player. Well, because I went from, bottom of the list to the only one. So
Oh, I love that. But it felt good, right? It felt
it
good.
does. But so I can tell you times in my work life. I mean, when I had, a job, all the time that I worked for the government, I can think of times when I prioritized recognition over actual money.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
do that
money's
too.
great, don't get me wrong. And I love it when people give me money, but in terms of self-satisfaction, that recognition of knowing that it made a difference to somebody else, that does it to me. It's almost like a drug.
Yeah, actually, okay, I'll admit, I think it's not even just recognition. I like love. the love of strangers. I don't really care about like the love of whatever, but I love the love of strangers, reception, Starbucks, anywhere I can go where a stranger is going to be really surprised at how much they love me and they're like really nice about it. I love that. That's why Zoom and I think we're talking, but the reason we can say this here is because we've picked our audience. I think most narrators or actors, we want that connection, don't we? We want somebody that we respect and admire to look at us and go, wow.
You done good. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
You get the gold star today.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like that. I mean,
I'm glad you
use that.
clarified about the love of strangers, because, you know, that could be a naughty romance.
You know, but remember, I do thrillers where everyone gets dead within the first 2 pages.
That's true. That's true. They wouldn't love you for long, would they?
But all the jobs I had, like cashier, I can't even remember. It was like literally a love affair. Like the customers were my best friends in the entire world. They would come in and they were my favorite people in the entire world. I love strangers. I do.
But they're not strangers for long, though, because if you
at that point, I leave and go to a different job or something. I'm not very good at the whole messy actual relationship part.
But they knew, but see, this is the thing. They knew that you thought highly of them too, and they looked forward to that interaction with you. I
do think that every interaction, like and I don't think, I can say this here, I can say this to you, but because I'm full of hyperbole, people kind of take what I say with a grain of salt, but I don't think you realize how many people you have literally guided hand by hand through horrible times or changes in career and been responsible for them being able to like go on with their lives and do what they want. Whereas I like to think that like sometimes I'll narrate a book. I mean, the type of book I do, maybe not going to touch people's hearts, you know, but it'll keep them distracted. You know, I like to think that the people I've met in a coffee shop, I might have given them courage to do something. It's the strangers, you know, you learn to lie. Oh, I've got a question. Can I ask Karen if there was anything she would have done? Oh, is there anything you would have done differently when you started?
When I started VO or when I started audiobooks?
Because they weren't specific.
And you're asking me to remember something that happened in the last millennium. I mean,
audiobooks, they say. They said audiobooks.
That's a good question. And there are probably things that I could have done differently, but I usually will say, and I think I'll say it now and stick with it, that things happen for a reason. And when I start to berate myself for opportunities that I didn't follow up on, or somebody seemed to give me a leg up or something and I didn't take it, there's a reason for that. And I may not know the reason, and it may not even be about me, but I'm really working to hold the attitude that the right people and the right opportunities are coming across my path at the right time. Yeah. And that takes a lot of stress out of it. That keeps me from, because I could go back and I could say, oh, I should have done this. I should have done that. I wish I'd done this.
But then you wouldn't be.
And if I had done those things, I'd be so much further along.
But the butterfly effect, you could be doing something completely different if you had done those things. You wouldn't be who you are right now.
And, you know, I've got to say, my narration career doesn't look to me the way I always dreamed it would, because I thought I would be with the top 5 publishers and they'd be handing me books right and left. That's not happened. But like I said before, it's all an evolutionary thing. And I've come to appreciate with each passing day how much I appreciate the career that I have, because right now I'm not really seeking work from publishers. And I'm not on their schedule, which, like I say, I have to say I'm really appreciating that one. Setting my own schedule and doing work that I'm finding meaningful and important, and that seems to be meaningful and important to other people is, I mean, it's like, what more could I ask? So the long answer is, if I had done something different, then things wouldn't have worked out the way they are. And I might not be as happy as I am. So, I just try to be happy in the moment and not second guess myself about the past, and not, I have to get out. I'm a planner. It comes with being organized. And so not planning too far in the future either, because as we've seen from the last year and a half, plans can really cave in an instant.
See, that's the challenge. That's funny, because being a planner, I struggle.
You and I need to have separate chats after this. I can see we're going to be best friends forever.
Control has been a recurring theme in my life, but I learned a lesson today. I've had construction since December, major construction, Guantanamo Bay torture level sound since December. I don't care if you have a floating booth sound, it's there. But today I went out and kind of told the construction workers that I was planning to murder them, that I narrate thrillers and I spend most of my day looking out the window thinking of interesting ways to kill them. Because, and could that guy just not do that beeping thing when he backs up the forklift? Just run people over if they're stupid enough to get behind you.
My thoughts exactly.
They
Good for
agreed.
you.
We had a good laugh, and they actually came up with different murder ideas and pointed out some interesting tools they have. And now I can't even be mad at them because I'm friends with them. So it's like kind of like we might, as a planner, lesson learned, I don't have control over what's happening, but I have control over how I'm going to deal with what's happening.
That's so important. Such a key.
But it's key.
You deserve a round of applause for that.
Oh, I love that. I love that, because they have that canned laughter on YouTube. I tried that, but it's not the same as applause.
Oh, this is a box. It's an applause box.
I love that.
And every time I open its lid,
I think we should all have that in our booth.
Well, and they don't make them anymore, because I used to love to give this to people, and they've stopped making them and I can't find them. So if somebody finds a source for the applause box, let me know. But you deserve applause for going out and talking with them and making them your friend. And now they're on your side and they're going to stop.
Oh, I hope so. Wouldn't that be wonderful if they stopped the beeping?
And all the ideas that you had, you should take that and, well, I don't want to say you should, but you might think about writing a story with some of the ideas they gave you, especially since they showed you some
writing would be a backup.
Tools.
The thing about, how we meet writers through this job, I always thought, oh, that'd be kind of a fun, but the thing about writing is you have to sit down quietly and be self-motivated without someone else's. It's my second career if audiobooks ever do get completely taken over by robots.
Well, and you're such a busy girl, you wouldn't have time to do it anyway. I mean, between these fabulous shows and then actually this whole other thing you've got going as an actual narrator, I mean, you don't have time for a third career. And really, I don't know why ET or somebody hasn't picked you up to be their interviewer to the stars, because you are such a natural at it and just give off such a warm, loving vibe to everybody. And people on the show, it goes by so fast and it's always such fun.
But you see, and you're very kind. Thank you very much.
I'm just being truthful and telling you what I have observed.
But the thing is, it's the guests. I mean, seriously, there is no other career in the world where you can find that many, that quirky, that eccentric people to interview. Like literally, there's not been one that hasn't had some spooky, strange past or some wild, I mean, we hang out with a great bunch of people, so it's really easy to just sit here and go, really? You eat fire?
Videos or it didn't happen.
Exactly. And they have the videos and but can you remind me, because I don't remember it, which is great, the day you left the corporate world and thought, I'm looking for the hero's journey here. So the day you left the corporate world and thought, I'm doing this,
What would you want to know about it?
I want to hear the tumultuous battle with the soul. Did you have second thoughts? Were you?
No. No. Well, I'm sorry to deprive you of all of those kind of juicy details, because it didn't happen that way at all. So
how did it happen?
Well, I mean, I had been with the government for over 30 years. And so I got to retire. It was an early out because I wasn't the age, but they were restructuring and they gave me an offer and I'm like, see ya. Because I had been working for that day for 12 years. I had been working part-time as voiceover and then in audiobooks for 12 years.
I remember that was in that blog. I remember that part. That was like, yeah.
And the thing is, I even then and still now, especially now, I see people who have day jobs and they bemoan the fact, well, I have this day job. The thing is, it's not a survival job. Bonnie Gillespie has a great term for it. It's a thrival job. That day job bankrolls all these dreams. That day job bankrolled my previous studio. It allowed us to build a room on the house and buy a whisper room. And it allowed me to travel to conferences and not have to worry about, am I going to make my mortgage? Am I going to make my car payment? Because I had that thrival job. I had a friend I worked with who he had a great way of saying this. He said, you don't go out on safari until your base camp is funded and functional and operational. And once you've got base camp going, then you can go out on safari. And so for me, working in voiceover was that going out on safari. But it actually, it started in 1992 because I realized Barbara Scher, who is another one that I love, and I read her book, and that was life-changing.
Like basically formed me as a human being.
Yes, well, and the one I read first, though, was I could do anything if I only knew what it was.
Knew what that was. Yeah.
And at the time I read it, I was burned out. And she has a chapter in that book called On the Fast Track and Going in the Wrong Direction. And that was me, because I got into IT, but it was kind of a fluke because I worked there. I had been working there since high school. And so I graduated, I have a BA in journalism and broadcast journalism. And I always wanted to do voiceover, but I thought that was the way to get into it. But at the time I couldn't get in it. And the radio job that I had on the weekend was just a weekend job. And I, had bills and all this kind of stuff. And so it's like, I put that dream on the shelf and I did what so many people do. And that is, I got a job that paid me more money. It just happened to be where I was still working, but it was a total career shift. It was in IT. And I turned out I had a very good ability for that and capability for it. And that's why I went back to get my master's. I thought, oh, maybe I was in the wrong career all along.
But no, then what about the dream about voiceover? Where did you put that dream while you were at that stage when you were first making more money? Where was that dream?
It was nowhere. It was just
buried.
It wasn't anything, because I had worked with the radio station. I did an internship and then they hired me. And fun fact, I met Drew there. I met him the first day of my internship. And it turned out
That's
fired him
romantic.
to
What,
hire
was he
me.
like? Was he like the older gentleman that showed you around the station and eyes met across a crowded room kind of thing?
We were the only people there, and he's not that much older than me. But we had, we had the best talk the day we met, and we've been together since the day we met.
That's so lovely.
But they had to fire him to hire me, and I had to be the one to tell him.
Not so romantic.
Anybody who's worked in radio will know, well, radio stations are screwed up, and that's just yet another way they were. But Drew was, he was still in school at Georgia Tech, and he was studying software engineering. And so when this job came open at the IRS as a programmer, I had never used a computer. I hadn't done it. And Drew taught me everything I needed to know to at least get through the interview. And they hired me. And they said later, there were like 200 people, but I blew them out of the water at the interview. And they knew that whatever technical skills I needed to learn, I could do it and then do it in a hurry. And so I did.
So the little girl that didn't audition well, Drew helped you overcome the hurdle and you were the interview star.
Oh, no, wait a minute. Auditions and interviews are totally different things. Auditions are a performance. An interview, I'm much better at an interview.
Do you really think they're different things? You don't get nervous at interviews and you do at auditions?
I think that because interviews are words, and I guess just because that's my natural comfort zone.
Okay.
Because I'm either writing or I'm speaking. So I've just always felt much more comfortable in an interview.
So how long were you working at this job before the dream of the voiceover started going, hold on?
Well, so I got this job as a programmer, and then I progressed up, and I became a manager of programmers. And then I became an analyst, and it just, the more you get paid and the more they expect of you, and the more responsibilities you have, the more stress you have, and the more I was having to travel and just other things and I was just stressed out and worn out. And this was 92, and I saw Barbara Sher on Oprah, and I got that book, and that's where it all started. And so when I say it's been an evolution, it's been, almost 30 years of an evolution. Every day is an evolution. So that's where I pulled that dream back off the shelf. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just volunteer for the Georgia Radio Reading Service for the Blind, and I'll just get it out of me. And that's all I need. Well, I did that for 5 years, and that's not all I needed. And as rewarding as that was, that wasn't what I wanted. And so I took a voiceover workshop with a well-known person here in Atlanta, Paul Armbruster, for anybody who knows his name. And sadly, he's passed on in the last several years. But I took his workshop. He worked with me on a demo, and then I started marketing the demo. And that was 99 when I started marketing my demo. And for 12 years, I went to that day job, and I would do things at lunch. I would do things on my evenings. I would do things on the weekends. And I really felt like I was working full-time and working part-time. But
I love that you saved your money, because I did the same thing, but I spent my money investing in faux fur and boots and anything with glitter or rhinestones. I didn't save a single penny for a career afterwards because I didn't think I could get it. I love the fact that there's a podcast called The Accidental Creative. I know he's gotten it's all commercial now, so it's different, but I listened to that. And that's who you remind me of when you're saying that. You built a stable foundation. You knew you were ready to move. You thought things through thoroughly. I didn't do that.
But look where you are, though. I mean, see, this is the thing.
But we've
had totally different paths, and look where you are.
Yeah, but only because I'm doing it because I held on so long. It was so bad. I was sick. I was in and out of hospital. I was falling. Anytime I'd leave the house, I would fall. Kind of funny that I've not fallen since leaving that job. And I remember I had fractured my pelvis, not falling. The doctor said consistent with having fallen out of an airplane. and they called and
Oh
made
my
me
God.
redundant when I was home with a fractured pelvis. And I still took the train with a fractured pelvis because I thought I had to go into work.
Mm.
So I didn't get the hint. I wasn't smart about it. I wish I was. I wish I was. It would have been a lot easier because it's scary. People think you can make quick money doing audiobooks, like all the COVID people. Like, really, guys? Seriously? Try to get some money because you're gonna need it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not an easy road, but I think if you love it, no matter how you get there, you hold on because you
Well, and
know you've got something.
I think you going through all that physical pain
Yeah.
only served to intensify your determination to get the life you wanted.
Yeah.
And so
No one's my boss.
I think you still got to say it has meaning and you're where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And you'd say you'd change it because, of course, who wants to go through all that? But then
I couldn't because I didn't believe that I could do what I grew. I think if you grow up in a family, I didn't believe that I could do something I loved and support myself. I didn't believe it. I had no example of somebody in the world doing that. I didn't think it was possible. And I was an actress, and actors are a whole different breed because most of the people you know are unemployed at any time. You know, we're lucky, so lucky as narrators, you know.
But see, I think you went through all these painful episodes and something was building inside of you.
Yeah.
I mean, you were learning and you were seeing examples where, there are people who are doing what I want to do. And if they can do it, I can too. And sometimes it just takes time for, like you say, for you to have that belief in yourself that it's possible. And if it's possible, then I'm going to do what I can to make it happen.
And never let go. You never let go. I mean, I did burlesque. I found it way less scary getting my kid off in front of total audiences in Soho over and over. No fear at all. But take a chance and audition on ACX and buy a microphone. It took me 3 years to get the nerve to buy a microphone from first. So you built a studio, you planned ahead, your husband supported you, I'm assuming.
Oh, absolutely.
I bet he's so proud.
I mean, he does even today. I mean, he directs all of my sessions, and for Narrators Roadmap, he's running the mailing list, and he's adding calendar updates and figuring out the back end of some of the software. And in fact, yesterday somebody needed help with something, and I mean, we email each other. I send him an email. Can you help this person? So he's totally involved in everything I do.
How do you manage your life, i.e. your schedule and your admin? And do you have, are you like Andy Orange? You have specific days that you always take off? What do you do to run your schedule?
At the beginning of each month, I set up an Evernote of what do I want to get done this month. And I look at my calendar of things that I've already planned, like training or certainly things like this. And, I add them. If there's a book that I'm working on, add that. And I have categories. I have a template for it. So it has categories for narration, for Narrators Roadmap, for training, for writing. And sometimes, like, I have an idea of an article I want to write, and I will say, write about this. In fact, I have so many ideas, but I haven't always made time to implement those ideas. And so
you write them down and revisit them later and find that you're able to dive into them. That's brilliant. That's a good idea.
Well, they're in Evernote too. So if some of them are just ideas in Evernote, and I might just have a few lines of where I wanted to go with this. Some of them I've actually started the drafts and have various lengths of it in WordPress. And I try different things to get it done. Sometimes I try to go 30 minutes a day and write something. And sometimes I just will spend all day doing it.
Do you have a designated recording time, like a certain time every day, or?
No, I mean, we generally will have brunch because we don't want to get up early enough to go to breakfast. And besides, traffic is very heavy. So we'll generally do that. And then if I'm recording, we'll record when we get home. And if it's a sunny day in the summer, I want to be done by 1 or 2 so we can be out at the pool. I mean, I structure my work around the rest of my life.
Oh, I need to learn how to do that. That's amazing.
And I don't work 8 or 10 hours a day, because here again, this is under rule number 1. If I wanted to do that, I would have stayed at the IRS. So if I can avoid it, I don't do that. I usually don't work 6 hours. I mean, 4 is enough, I think.
But the Narrators Roadmap must take a lot, because that is quite a feat. That's got to be taking, unless you've done all the groundwork.
Well, I'm adding things to it all the time. And just last week, I added a very big thing, which is a casting directory. And the thing is, so I still have dozens of entries to add. But I guess the approach that I've always taken to stuff, whether it was my blog or whether it's this, if I'm in control over the deadline, and I am, then why am I going to pressure myself? Got to do it right now.
Do you know what? I love you. This call, I love you. You have just done the mind shift. You consider yourself in control of your deadlines.
Hello, yes.
That's where I've been going wrong. My deadlines have been in control of me. You have your life, and you fit everything else around it, and you're in charge. I love that.
Well, I'm so glad we had this talk.
I love that. I'm going to look back at my schedule and ask myself, what would I do with this if I was in control of my deadlines? Because I'm not in control. My deadlines, I feel like I've got no choice. You know, it's
wow. Okay. So when you're doing work for other people, obviously you're on their deadline.
But I set them, and I set them too far because I feel like I don't want to make people wait too long.
Well, if you're setting them, then you need to, I don't want to say you need, I try not to tell people what they need to do or should to do. And I don't, because I don't want to.
You don't tell yourself
I don't want to come across as like telling you something, but
you don't tell yourself that. That's what I'm getting from you.
Oh,
I
do though. I tell myself you need to do this, you should do that. So, but what I'm saying is I try not to pressure myself. So like blogging, people always said, oh, you've got to blog every day. I do not blog every day. I do not blog every week. I don't even necessarily blog every month. There have been whole months where I didn't post anything. And I've looked at it that the audience will come. I used to stress about who's reading it, am I getting comments? And now I don't care. I write it and I put it out there.
Yeah.
And whoever needs to see it, the audience will come. And this is the same with Narrators Roadmap. So I've launched big new feature, and I have dozens to add, but I'm not going to make myself crazy working like a mad woman, adding them all right now. I think, well, I'll add one today, and I might add one Thursday. What's today? Tuesday. So, at the more measured pace. And they're all going to get done. It might take a little bit longer, but they'll all get done. And why make myself crazy in the meantime?
My exercise, if I approached everything like that, I could have an actual life.
Yes. And you know what? You might enjoy it.
And it's no actual physical, because I've been looking for how am I going to fit? I've got everything on a spreadsheet, 15-minute increments. How do you fit it in? But if you go by what you're saying, you start with, I'm not going to rush here. I set my own deadlines. What do I want to do? And then you can probably get more done, because you know how much time, mental focus it takes, that struggle.
Yes, I do know. That's why I try not to do it.
Yeah, you know, when you're up at 3 a.m, ripping your hair out, looking at your schedule, going, "Oh my God." I love that. I'm going to model Karen yet again.
Well, and I feel like if I had things planned for 15-minute increments, that would just feel very, what's the word I'm looking for? I would just feel like I'm bolted to a wall or something.
I mean, I change it. I've had that spreadsheet my whole life. I'm a little bit eccentric. It's planned. It's up there till I'm 100, but I've changed it because I was going to cut it off earlier, but then I thought that could be bad luck because at what point do you know, visualization? I change it, but the problem is like the spreadsheet has to change before I change anything else in the day. So the spreadsheet's in charge. The deadlines are in charge. The way you're saying it, which is why I think you can afford to be all like calm and zen, which is because you're like, why? This is all silly. Just do what you want to do and be reasonable about it and work hard and you'll be fine in the end. Am I getting that right?
I think so. I think so. And with a lot less stress now, I mean, this is not saying I don't stress myself out, and it's not saying I'm always zen, but the key word is this is my goal, and this is the way I'm endeavoring to approach things. I can't say that I'm always successful.
But how do I
and I do get stressed about things. So I think that's just human, and wanting to do a good job and wanting to support other people. And you know, but I absolutely, if I'm on somebody else's deadline, my goal is to not meet that deadline. I want to beat that deadline. You know, I don't want them waiting to the last second to get something from me.
Yeah.
But all the things that I'm in control over, which is most of what I do, then I'm going to be in control of the deadline too.
Yeah.
Not the other way around.
I know. And it's like living your life. Like I always seem to like schedule my life as if starting tomorrow, there is not going to be any construction noise or people vying for my attention or emergencies or disasters or sickness. Starting tomorrow, I'm going to feel like living on celery and like exercising. But tomorrow comes and you're the same you that you were before with the same habits.
I have a friend said about me years ago, and this is still true, that I try to stuff 10 pounds of things into a 2-pound bag. And so not only do I have this monthly plan of what I want to do, but I have a daily plan. So every day it used to have 5 things. 5 is too many. I've cut it down to 3. And it's like the number one thing, if you did this one thing, then that would make the day great. And then the next 2 things are things I could do that would make the day even better. But then I'll also write down, I have a thing on the template for anything that I did that wasn't on my list. And I perpetually find there's a lot of things I do that aren't on my list, and they tend to be like answering questions, helping people, kinds of things, because helping people that's just part of my mission here on earth. I've always felt like I wanted to help people. I mean, this was true on the day job. This has always been true. Even when I was just doing voiceover, I had a page on my website of how to get started in voiceover. So it's always been true to try to help people, because I feel like if I help somebody today, tomorrow, when I need help, somebody will be there for me. I think what you put out in the world comes back to you, and it's in a time and a place that you don't know, you can't imagine. And so like
generosity is an energy, and it's an energy that if you want generosity to come back to you, you've got to surround, it's abundance. But what you made me realize is that restriction is also an energy. And when I'm saying I should do this, I have to do this, I'm not going to have enough time, I schedule, you know, those self-help books that say you've got to do fun things and feed your soul. I schedule those in and then get mad at myself for not being able to fit them in, the self-help things. So, but that's restriction. That's an energy. What energy are we surrounding ourselves with?
You are so right about that. And the thing about what you put out in the world. This is even true. Like, I don't want to complain or make comments about people's voices that I hear on TV or commercials, even though there's a lot of them that just, oh, I can't stand hearing certain types of voices. And maybe we're all this way, but I don't want to say something about them, because if I'm putting out negative energy about somebody else's voice, it's going to come back to me in a time and a place that I don't expect. And probably that time and place is going to be in an Audible review. And so I really try to be conscious of the words I'm saying and to speak my words in the direction that I want my life to go. And like if somebody says, are you not feeling well? I'll say, I could be better. Because I don't even want to say I'm not feeling well. I could be better. So it's a real conscious effort to, and I'm not always successful with this either. So I can tell you what I endeavor toward. And talking about getting stuff done, though, somebody at APAC, I was doing the business diagnostics with people, and somebody said, how do you get so much stuff done? And I thought about it a minute, and I actually wrote a blog article about that, because a lot of what I do that I think other people could replicate are things like shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts.
I think I read that blog. I read that blog a while ago. I love that. That was the one, was that the one that you have the templates with the cool postcardy template?
Maybe.
Yeah, it was cool.
I don't remember, but yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think any kind of time-saving thing that you can incorporate in your day it does allow you to accomplish more with less time and energy of your own put into it.
I love that. And you know what's funny, because we think you have to totally change something. You think, I've got to fix this, I've got to fix that. You're sitting awake. For a friend, obviously I don't do this. Sitting awake late at night on your phone, doom scrolling with Netflix on, and you think, I've got to change my life, I've got to stop doing it. Well, really, what's the smallest step to the side you could make in the way you're looking at it? And you gave us a small step sideways tonight.
And Barbara Sher was famous for talking about that. Like, what's the least amount of time you think you could spend on something?
I remember, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So like the other day, I obviously would like to lose weight. And the other day I saw, we've got a treadmill. It's a wonderful treadmill. And I got on it for 5 minutes. I say the other day, it was 2 days ago, 5 minutes, because that was all I could. And I hadn't been on it in, a while, we'll just say.
I just sold the one I bought.
Today I'll try to do 5 minutes and try to build up from there, because, I look at incremental change and I keep saying, it's probably my theme for the day, that everything's an evolution, that it doesn't all have to happen right this minute.
I love that. Because if you look at, I used to look at the numbers of my books. I'm going to finish my first year. I was like, I'm going to have 50 books my first year of audiobooks. And then they randomly take some books down because they disagree with a writer, and then a book disappears and you don't know what happened to it. And then I talked to Anne Flosnick, O'Grady Flosnick, and she said it in a much nicer way, but she's something like, oh, honey, who can be bothered with that? When you've got like 500 books, they start disappearing off Audible, but you start to not notice all those things, because like what I said, what was the epiphany? What was the moment? And you're like, I just got there eventually. There isn't, maybe it doesn't all have to be grand entrances and exits, right? Maybe just go on the treadmill for 6 minutes tomorrow.
That might happen.
I sold my treadmill in a stomping drama queen temper tantrum. So that's where epiphanies get you in the pool.
I do remember the day that I cut everything out that was VO, like I said, because it was very deliberate. And I do remember that one pretty vividly. And, you talk about your book numbers, and these are all arbitrary views of success, because it would be real easy for me, and I say it's easy because I've done it and it's not fun. It's very easy for me to fall in the trap of seeing somebody, oh, I just got a 10-book series, or, oh, I just did my 400th book, or
I started last month and 6 publishers are begging me to work for them.
Yes, yes, yes. And it's real easy to see these things. And I've had very just almost physical reactions to a lot of what I see on social media. In that, I mean, I take it very personally. It's not about me, has nothing to do with me, but I would internalize it like, well, there's something wrong with me that's not happening for me. And it has taken me a long time to realize that's them, that, you know, that has nothing to do with me. And there's no shame in what I have done or haven't done compared to anybody else, because comparisons, you've heard it said, they're the thief of joy, and to compare is to despair. And all those things are true, because, you know, if I could only make one change for other people, if I could only pass on one thing that people will remember and it would mean something to them in their lives, and that is just don't compare. Don't
this is your YouTube
yourself.
Final words for people for 60 years. I always ask that question, but this is a good one because you led me right into it. So what would you like to leave the audience that's watching this on YouTube 60, 90 years from now? I like to think of this as, you know, when in school they put them in a box under the ground in case like the nuclear war hits and 20 years from now somebody will dig it up. What would you like them to see when they dig this box up?
Oh, well, then, you know, I could talk about the don't compare, because that's so important and it's such a detriment, and it's a self-sabotaging thing, really. You are holding yourself back from joy in the moment and happiness long-term to compare yourself. But since you've said it, you know, they might be watching this decades from now, the thing I'd say is, remember that this is the day I said I'm going to win a Grammy. And actually, I've been saying that, but hadn't quite happened yet. but you never know. But I think I read. It's funny, you were talking about reading my blogs. When I was at my day job, I read Nancy Cartwright's article in Animation World. She would do a monthly column, and I would be reading those. And I remember she said that she decided for herself she was going to win an Emmy, and she has won an Emmy. And I've kind of thought, you know, if she could decide that for herself, I can decide for me that I'm going to win a Grammy for best spoken word. You actually can.
Jim Carrey, do you know the old story about Jim Carrey? He wrote himself a check for such and such.
Yes.
And the comparison, I'll tell you a secret.
Yes.
There was one publisher that hired everyone but me. And I did all the right things.
They probably haven't hired me either, but go ahead.
Well, okay, so I won't say the name purposely, but I did all the right things. I did the 8 weeks, and I told myself intellectually, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And all the reasons, you know, and I was a constant barrage of people excited because it was kind of like a lot of entry-level narrators would get hired. And I'd be like, okay, maybe it's because of where I live. Maybe it's because of my voice. Maybe it's this, maybe it's, so it was like, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough for this, like, you know, but that's ridiculous. Look at what you have done. You talk yourself down. So the thing is all those things, comparison is like leads to despair. And you know that, you tell other people that, but when it's you and it keeps happening, and then people are so excited and they assume you're with them because that you've been doing like 8,000 books. So of course, and I finally broke through and I got a book. And all my friends will testify. I probably edit this out maybe. I got a book And I said, oh, but it's not going to happen. They're going to like ghost me or something. I'm not going to. And then they didn't ghost me. And I recorded it. I was like, well, they're going to reject it when they get it. They won't like it. And then they got it and they put the book out. And you know that song, Is That All There Is? It's a famous song. The woman, you know, there's a fire. Is that all there is? That's how I felt. Is that all there is? It was like, I tortured myself for 6 years. I made it about my value as a human being because I couldn't get that one gig.
I'm so with you. I've had this same experience. That's what I'm saying. I think you and I have kind of been on different paths, but have a lot of the same experience. I've had that exact same thing. And Eckhart Tolle, who wrote A New Earth, and he wrote something in the book that has stayed with me. And I apologize if I misquote him, but he says, like, when you talk about what you think you lack, that lack is going to keep showing up for you.
Yeah.
So if you think that I lack this publisher hiring me, well, guess what? And especially if you say it, and especially if you say it with a lot of emotion behind it, the more emotion you put to these things.
It's a recipe. You're visualizing your failure.
Absolutely. And so what he said, and I love this, is that you have what you think you lack, and you can put it out in the world. So I've gone from somebody who was upset because publishers weren't hiring me. And this is another thing, things don't always happen on our timetable, and things take a lot of time in this industry, and it takes a lot of seeds, a lot of planting, a lot of fertilization for that harvest to come through. And so,
but it's just hard when you've just seen it on social media, because your first thought is, but they happen on everyone else's timetable.
But the thing is, so I've gone from feeling like publishers won't hire me to I have more than enough work for 2 people of either narration or Narrators Roadmap. I don't need them to hire me because I'm hiring myself. I'm publishing books that I like, that I think are important, and that I want to do, and I'm excited about. And so I think that it is self-sabotage. I know it's self-sabotage to say these things like, oh, why won't they hire me? Or what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with us, except that sometimes our thinking is screwed up, and that we need to maintain that positive attitude of there's nothing wrong with me. And every day I'm getting better. And even say that, and especially if you can say it to yourself in the mirror, that I'm getting better every day in every way.
And managing the energy. It's the same. I beat myself up for my diet mentality, but I am talking all the time about my weight. Guess what I'm going to get? A problem with my weight, because guess where my focus is? And if you're focusing on your problems, you're going to get more problems. But if you focus on,
and like the people who, if you, and the way you can think about it is, and I know you know this, but like if the people when you're sick, so when you're sick and you tell people, oh, I'm sick, and the more people you tell it to, the sicker you get. And, people don't make that connection. Or when, like and we've all done this. So like, we had a very bad year with Drew's parents, who went from healthy on their own, and they were in their early 90s, to, they had health issues, and they passed away within a year. And it was a solid year. It was the hardest year we've had. It was terrible. And the thing is, when you have these bad experiences, and we all go through bad experiences, it takes a while sometimes to realize, oh, that experience is back there, because we keep talking about it as if it's still happening. Yeah. And then we keep reliving these things and telling anybody who will listen to it. And that just mires us further in it, instead of realizing, no, that was a moment in time, and now that time is behind us, and I am ruining my happiness in my present moment to keep living in these past moments.
And but that's actually that realization. And if you make that you're like, I'm going to manage my energy and my focus and my mindset, I need to let you go soon because I keep you here for 6 hours. But if you can manage that, because I have a theory that people that you get to midlife and everything, life doesn't get harder. Yeah, I mean, yes, people pass away, but life doesn't get harder. In a lot of ways, life gets better. But we've accumulated experiences and we've not let go of them or processed them. So our minds go directly to the negative, whereas when you're younger, you're thinking about your dreams and your hopes and the positive. And that's all we have to do is start doing it again. Start thinking about the positive again. Start remembering the good stuff and dreams and hopes and, you know.
And speaking about those things and speaking with passion and energy about those things and not the woe is me. Oh, they said they had a book for me and 3 years later, where is it? You know, I mean, see, this is the thing when you hear, and I say this from my own experience, when I hear myself reiterating some story from the past, I have to look at it and say, how is this serving me now? Because if it's not, I need to get rid of it. But a lot of times it takes time to realize that's what I'm doing and that I'm holding myself back.
I never thought about the voice. And of all the people in the world, we should know the power of the voice. You've got a really good point. You can't just change your thinking. You have to say it, speak it to the world.
Because your brain, so everything that comes out of your mouth is feeding back into your ears, and your brain is going to believe anything that you're saying. And so if you're saying woe is me stories and like, well, why don't they like me? And, what's wrong with me? And when's it going to be my turn? And well, your brain is just going to keep that your feedback loop. But if you say, well, I've gotten training and I'm getting better every day, and you have to rewire those thoughts with positive affirmations and self-talk and self-imaging. And like I say, to put those words out in the direction you want to go instead of in the direction you don't want to be.
Okay,
believe me, I know about going in the wrong direction.
We've all done it. I think that's what makes us stronger. Now I do have a question. We're gonna have to close out and let Karen go eventually, but can I sneak one last question in?
Sure.
We've got a quirky question from Barbara. She would like to know, where in the world has Karen traveled that she absolutely loved?
Oh, well, thanks. I love that question. Paris is my favorite city. So this is the picture of my studio as the background, and you might see, one or two Eiffel Towers in the background because the Eiffel Tower is my favorite thing. And yes, Drew has kissed me at the top of the Eiffel Tower more than once. She kissed and told. But I loved Rome and loved London, and we were on a Greek Isles cruise and got to go to the pyramids one day, and that was a really special day, and I'll always have memories of that. So yeah, I love to travel, but I haven't done so much lately, and I don't know when I will get. I will say I have seen Barry Manilow over 50 times in over 20 cities, from London to Las Vegas. So I could say if it's not Paris or Rome or one of these places, if Barry's there, it was a good place to be.
I love
and if
that.
Drew's there, it the best.
I love that. I love the romance. I love you and Drew and eyes meeting across a crowded room.
It was not a crowded room because we were the only ones
Just
there.
you two. I know. Let me keep my.
You can keep that. Yeah. Yeah. He came up to me that day and he said, "Who are you?"
I love that. And then she fired him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that adds a quirky twist to the story.
And we thought nobody at the station knew about us because nobody worked there on the weekend, but I guess they knew somehow.
Because you can't hide true love.
That's probably it. You can't hide a true love.
Can you tell that we've all read way too many romances at this point?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, Karen, it has been a joy and a privilege. You got to come back on and chat with us again sometime. And thank you very much. I
Well,
really,
thanks
really
so
appreciate
much
it.
for having me. You're just a delight and a joy to talk with. And
Oh,
like I say, you and I seem to have so many things in common. I can't believe we haven't talked before today, but I hope we will
thought
talk
we
again.
had. I could have sworn we'd like known each other for
It
years.
does, doesn't it? I mean, it
You were
does.
like,
It
we
seems
haven't
like we
met. And I'm
have.
like, are you sure?
Well, I do hope this won't be the last time either.
Of course.
In this format or just even personally. So I've
Well,
just enjoyed it so much, and thank you for allowing me to come on, and it's the hours just flown by. I'm
thank
so
you for
happy.
coming on. You had quite an audience, and you're a big favorite with the crowd. So we will have the video up in a few weeks. Everyone say bye to Karen. Thank you so much, Karen. And thank you guys for joining the call. And we'll see you soon, and we'll have you back sometime if I can convince you, Karen.
Well, I don't think you'd have to twist my arm too much, but thank you so much. This has been a joy.
Thank you. See you later. Bye, guys. Have a good night. Take care. Bye.